Hey, everybody. Welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am so blessed and honored to be here today hosting this conversation with some wonderful friends. It is Pride Week on Love and Relo. Today, we are talking about parenting. I'm loving the topic. I'm loving the people. We had a great show yesterday. I think today's going to be wonderful too. No pressure, no pressure. But hey, if you're tuning in right now, hit that like button right now. Let's get in the comments. Let's give some support and questions and just kind of keep the love flowing here. We've got Mariana Barros from Differänce Intercultural. How are you doing, Mariana?
Hello, Ben. Very nice to be here again. Love the subject. Thank you for the invitation.
It is so good to have you back here, Mariana. I remember we had you leading off the LATAM week as our intercultural expert. And the first 5 minutes of LATAM week, Mariana tells me, well, Brazil's not really in LATAM. And I'm like, my whole week just got blown up. So hopefully you give us some equally earth-shattering revelations today that are less embarrassing to me. We will see. Thank you, Mariana, for being here today. I appreciate you so much. And we got Paul Seymour from Bristol. What's up, Paul? How's it going?
Hey, Ben. Thanks for having us here. This is a great topic, and we got a great a great panel here to discuss this. So thanks.
Yeah, for real, for sure, and thank you for being here. And in a lot of ways, Paul, this was kind of your idea and Jason Suto from BlackRock. Jason, how's it going?
Hi, Ben. Thanks for having me back. How are you?
I'm awesome, and I love the shirt there too. That's awesome, rocking the pride. Jason, this really came up when we were talking. A couple weeks ago with you here on the show, and you shared with us your family, aspects of it. Not, you didn't go into depth, but aspects of it, and you're really open about it. And it was really nice. Honestly, it was really nice because this has been a topic that I've wanted to cover here on the show. And gosh, we've been doing this for a year and a half, and I wanted to do a Pride Month last year, and I didn't have my ducks in order. And then here we are, a second crack at it. And then you were so open about your family, and I just like, this is great. And then we kind of got on the planning call. Jason, and Paul, I guess I want to start with y'all because this really idea came up as we were talking. Why was this idea of parenting such an important topic for you both to cover? As a moderator, I should probably call on somebody. Jason, would you go first? I'm still learning. Apologize.
No, you're fine, Ben. For me, it's important because my family is very important to me. Whatever decisions that I have to make regarding my career or, my life, I have to think about my husband of going on 18 years and, and our two children. So just like with anybody else, you have other people to consider. And so it's important. And it's important, again, back to, our conversation a couple of weeks ago. My family is my truth. I'm authentic because of them. I want to teach my children to lead authentic lives and be who they are. So for me to kind of hide and try to shelter that because I'm afraid of repercussions, it doesn't do me any favors, and it certainly does not do the LGBTQ community any favors. So that's why I thought it was important.
Yeah, that's awesome, Paul. Why was this? Why did you bring this topic up, Paul, for our week?
I think similar to Jason, it's very important for us to have visibility in the community and abroad. I'm very open and out with my friends in the industry and stuff like that. But I don't wave a banner every single day. But it is really important for us to have that exposure and to know that we are out there as a collective group and stuff. And I think as we mature, as a group or it's just more important that you have that visibility and stuff. So
yeah, awesome. And I want to get to kind of each of your stories and kind of unpack that, and then kind of go through, some myths and actually you've prepared some top fives as well, which you're actually, somewhat funny as well. And so we're going to kind of go through that. I want to welcome everybody to the show. We've got a bunch of people checking in here, and I want to just kind of give some shout outs to everybody checking in here as well. Keep the comments coming. We've got Janaina. So happy to see this happening, who introduced me to Mariana for the first time. We're both huge fans of Mariana. Thank you for being here. So awesome. Hello, everyone. Michael Bailey from Michigan. What's up, Michael? Stephen Meyer, Orange County, or Orange, Virginia, checking in. That's awesome. Ray Abbott from Vancouver, British Columbia. Let's see how many countries we've got so far. I think we're at 3. Stacy Huff, super producer Stacy, is going to be a great show. I'm already feeling the love, honestly. Some of these shows I start off, I'm like, nah, another Love and Reload. Some of these shows I'm like, all right, here we go. Let's have some fun here. This is great. Olivia, hello, everyone. Paul, I'm loving your shirt. Yeah. Awesome. We got 1 vote for Paul's shirt there. Tim Quirk, hello, all. Can't wait to hear more about my favorite topics, parenting. Can't wait to learn. Yeah, all you parents out there, I want to get you involved here as well, because I think one of the opportunities that we have here is to broaden the I think the conception or the perception of what parenting looks like, in our minds as and I'm speaking on behalf of like cisgender white males out there, right? And I think that I'm really excited. I'm probably most excited about that and hearing everybody's stories. Joanna Remmel, hi everyone. Russ Bilodeau, hi everyone. Checking in. Lizzie Beats from Chi-Town. This group is amazing. Sending love out there. Patricia Tavares, hi everyone. Couldn't miss this opportunity for this session. Amazing topic. Patricia here, yes. Put your questions in here in your comments as well. Francine Dresty, sending you all love. It's great to see all of you beautiful faces. Paul, love the picture with your son. Oh, that's awesome. Fantastic. Let's see here. We got people checking. Christina, parenting is so important, especially where many of us are full-time work from home and full-time parents at the same time. I'm gonna make this a question here. Christina goes here, and we're gonna get into each of your stories here, but I want to talk about this just for a moment. She talks about, especially where many of us are full-time work from home, full-time parents at the same time. Does this present any challenges or particular challenges, especially during the pandemic? Have you noticed this at all? I know it's kind of a left field question, but have you noticed this at all?
Yeah, I think we all had to adapt quickly and learn different skill sets that we had and patience throughout that whole process. And my son went from completely at home, virtual learning to a modified, way, and then to now full back at school. So it was, you had to keep on, we were very much engaged. We had to we had to actually help teach some topics and stuff and make sure that he was learning those. And then now I feel very disengaged, which is kind of a weird feeling as well, which is now back to normal, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Let's see here. We got some great comments here as well. Let's get into some stories here a little bit. Let's hop right into the meat of it here. And Mariana, we haven't heard from you yet. So would you like to share kind of your story?
Well, sure, Ben. Well, I'm a very, very recent parent. My twins are just 3 months old. So I'm just learning how to be a parent. And talking about the pandemic, I could say I have this weird feeling because actually the pandemic gave me the opportunity to not only be with my wife during her pregnant times, but also to be with my kids full time, which I would never be able to do without the pandemic. So it's weird to say, but there is a good aspect of the pandemic that I'm with my kids full time. But for sure, we had to adapt. I'm not working as much as I used to. And actually, differently from Paul and Jason, I was not really open in my professional life about my sexual orientation. And then when I decided that I wanted to have kids, it just occurred to me that I would have to be more brave and courageous, because otherwise it would be very, very bad for my kids. And so I think that's a little bit of my history.
I want to just ask you about that though for a moment, because it sounds like something that you didn't really choose to address and then the choice to have children outweighed maybe the choice to not be as public with your orientation. What was that like, going through that process and that thought process, and the discussions maybe around that, if you don't mind?
Sure, no problem. Yeah, I never felt, I was never hidden my personal life, hiding my personal life, but I didn't feel comfortable talking about this in the professional environment in Brazil. And then once I saw myself in the doctor trying to go to the in vitro process, I told myself, I can't do this anymore, because if I am to have children, I have to be proud of them, and they have to be proud of me, and that's how it happened. So I just had to address this in public, just as I'm doing today for them, and actually for myself also, always.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story. And Paul, do you want to talk a little bit about your pathway to parenthood?
Sure. Actually, mine started back in 2007. My partner and I attempted to do an international adoption. At the time, our social worker was, talking to us, and she said, really, for, your family situation is going to be the easiest, because at that time, there's options to open adoption, but she had coached us to go this way. And back in 2008, then, after we had been matched to 2 boys in Vietnam, the U.S. government had closed the borders to Vietnam due to non-compliance with the Hague Treaty, which is an international treaty about, human trafficking and things of that nature. And so we were left with no kids, spent the money and no goods. So at that point, we had to do some healing ourselves, and financial healing as well. And back in 2010, then we decided to go the foster care route, because we had some friends who had done it and done it very successfully. So we had went through a year of training to do foster care, had 5 kids, no more than 2 at a time, all under the age of 2. We had 2 infants that came to us, from the hospital, and then the third child that we had is our son Christopher, who we say stuck, and so it was kind of interesting, because the scenarios that happen through foster care are all different. Like Christopher is the one that we thought would never stick, if you want to call it that. His parents were doing everything, according to the book, and very go like on the up and up, and everything was right, and it was like, this is great. Well, then what happened within his situation was his parents were both arrested for possession and dealing, and during a checkup trial, the judge asked where the defendants were, and he said, they're downstairs, sir. And they said, I want them up here, and he put a termination trial in place. And they had 90 days to get their stuff together and and document everything, and they didn't do it. They signed over their rights at that point. So it's the weirdest thing. Yeah. So, and he was 11 months, and my son was 11 months when he came to us. So,
Paul, that's an incredible story. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. So,
wow. And you have 2?
No, just
children?
one.
Just
the
one.
one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, Christopher. Wow. Awesome.
Yep.
What an amazing story. Jason, do you want to share maybe your story?
Sure, absolutely. So some similar situations as Paul, but a little bit different. So my husband and I started talking about adoption in 2008, and as a New Year's resolution on January 1st, we put our application to the adoption agency in the mail January 1 of 2009. We went through a local agency called Adoptions from the Heart, and they do open adoptions. For anyone who's not familiar with that term, that means that we have done a moral agreement with the birth parents to allow pictures and letters, and we actually visit or committed to one visit once a year until the age of 18. We've gone through the process twice. So in 2009, it took us about 8 months to get through the home study and the background screening and everything that you need to do in order to be checked out, in order to go into what they call the book, to be shown to prospective birth parents. So we went into the book in August. And we were shown for a couple different scenarios. What people don't tend to know is that it's not a perfect scenario by far. We as adoptive parents have to fill out a key that tells basically what drug we're willing to accept during which trimester of pregnancy, or what we're not willing to accept. And those range from marijuana to heroin. So it's a very overwhelming process. And we had to do a lot of research with local pediatricians and institutions to find out what the long-term effects of drugs and alcohol can be on a child, because you have to be prepared for that commitment once you're placed. There's no backsies, if you're not happy with the situation after you've been chosen. So fortunately for us, we went in the book in August. We were selected in November by Nathan's birth parents. It was the situation couldn't have been more perfect, I say for us, but for them as well. Where they were just too young and they weren't prepared. It was an unexpected pregnancy. So Nathan was born on January 6th of 2010, and we had him as of day 2. And then Isabella was a completely different situation, who was born in September of 2012. Again, we had to go through the entire home study process again, but her situation was totally different from our original experience, which was not what we were expecting. Isabella's birth mother had been in the hospital for 3 months because she had contracted MRSA. She was a heroin user. Isabella was born addicted to opioids, so there was a weaning off process, and she had to spend extra time in the NICU. Adoption is not for the faint of heart, by any means, whether you're straight or you're gay. It's not an easy process. It's not a financially easy process. And but at the end of the day, we have 2 beautiful, thriving children that are now 11 and 8 in Spanish immersion programs at schools. So so life couldn't be better for us.
I'm just blown away by these stories right now. I'm just so touched. I want to give a bunch of hugs. I just want to hug everybody right now. Like, this is incredible. And I'm thinking about these children and everybody in the comments right now. If you're watching this right now, I want to see your comments. I want to hit the love. I'm seeing the hearts fluttering over here on my LinkedIn. The hearts are just fluttering over here. If you have questions, I'd love to hear your questions for Mariana and Paul and Jason. This is great. Vinny, Jason, you and your husband are amazing individuals. Thanks for sharing your story. This is fantastic. Matt Tobel says, Christopher is so lucky to have you and your husband as parents, and you to have him as your son. Thank you for sharing your special story. I knew you're an IT angel for Wisconsin ERC, but you're a real life one too. I mean, the comments just go on and on. Wow, Paul, amazing story. I mean, this is amazing. I'd love to take questions from the audience. I've got some of my own as well, but Sharon, kudos. Jason and your husband, Nathan and Isabel, are blessed to have 2 great dads. Wow, incredible stories. What a gift. Thank you for sharing, says Rachel. Christina, we all become parents in a different way. Recently, the United States lifted the restrictions on IVF and surrogacy abroad as it relates to obtaining citizenship through their parents. Previously, any child that was born via IVF or surrogacy abroad had an extensive list of requirements and was often denied citizenship regardless of the parent's citizenship status. My son was IVF born in Mexico, and we had to wait until the ban lifted before getting his CRBA and be able to come back to the United States. Interesting. This is great. This is really great information. Oh my gosh. I'm over here just reading all the comments. People are just, this is really touching a chord. Thank you so much for sharing this. I want to ask, in terms of the adoption, because it sounds like there's so many more layers of complexity than I was even honestly aware of. Do your kids ask about their adoption? Jason?
Yes and no. Part of the whole training that you go through when you're going through the adoption process, and this is not specific to LGBTQ couples or adoption parents by any means, but you do go through a whole training process of what's the correct mindset. And I mean, Nathan has us as parents. Nathan and Isabella have us as parents or as dads, but when we speak of who the others are, we talk about birth mother, birth father, because they do play a role in their lives. Why it not be a present role? It's important that the children understand what their story is and what their truth is. And that's another reason why we went through open adoption. We get access to medical history, so we know, if there are diseases or things that run in that family that we need to be aware of. I think gone are the days from the 50s and 60s where it was a closed file case that got filed away, and you were lucky with hiring a private investigator and going through a lot of different channels on finding your birth parents. And I'm friends with Nathan's birth parents on Facebook, and so they're constantly seeing what he's up to, and it's just a feel good type of situation. It feels good to us. I'm sure they feel much better about making the hard decision to give up the most precious thing that came into their lives. And just to set the record clear, and I'm sure Paul and Mariana would concur with this, no, people will say, how could they possibly give up their child? There's no such thing as anyone in the world wanting and willingly wanting to give up their child, something they created. It was something that was basically forced upon them, and they gave their child a special gift of a life with someone who could provide for them and give them the necessities that you need in order to thrive in this world. So, kudos to all birth parents out there who do give up their children for adoption, because without them, we wouldn't be able to have children.
Well, and the outcomes, I got to think that the outcome and their opportunities in life, Jason, just from what little you've shared with us, have to be so much greater, honestly, with you and your husband, because it sounds like their parents were really struggling, in those moments. Paul, it sounds like, especially with Christopher's case as well. Paul, I want to ask you the same question, and then I have some other questions coming in. Keep those questions coming in the comments as well, and we'll try to get to all of them. Paul, questions? Does Christopher have questions about his adoption?
Not necessarily about his adoption. He does know the story, and we've been very open about it throughout his whole life. We didn't want to have any mysteries and stuff like that, or that shocker where he finds out when he's 12 and he's blown away. So he's been very well aware of it. I think what's interesting about our situation, being in this case double dads, is that he never asks about his dad, his biological dad. He always asks about his mother and stuff, and I think it's because there may be that kind of missing piece in his life, to have him from a mother. So he asks and stuff. And along this story, I do have a funny story to tell. So a lot of people will ask, how do you manage, the story of, your relationship and things like that, especially with somebody. My son is actually 10 years old as well, almost 11. And one day he was going on a field trip on a bus. This was a couple of years ago. He was 8 years old, and he was riding on the bus, and the teacher, of course, knows our situation. And he heard another kid say, "What? You have two dads? Like, why do you have two dads?" and stuff. And she was kind of getting ready to be defensive and kind of stick up for, Christopher. And Christopher says, he kind of didn't really understand. He's like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, why do you have two dads? It's so weird. And then his best friend, whose name's Max, has a single mother, and he goes, dude, the guy has two dads. He goes, I just want one. And that was it, and it ended the whole story. So I think there's unique situations, and I think with adoptions and stuff like that, there are absences in children's lives, and we just try to prepare for those and how to best communicate them and make them prepared for those down the road. We don't have a current open relationship with Chris's birth parents, but we do know of them and who they are, and so we can find them, like on stalking them on Facebook. But so we do keep up where they are and what's going on. So eventually, when he's ready, we can go down that route and introduce them if that's what he chooses to do.
Wow, I'm like getting this is the second day like I started getting emotional. I'm like 2 for 2 here. When you talk about the two dads and just wanting one, I miss my dad a lot growing up, and he was still in the picture, but he was far, far away, and that resonates with me. Wow. So we got some great questions coming in here. I'm going to try to hold it together and just read some things. Jackie, Mariana, I'm going to let you go with this one first, if you don't mind. Jackie says, what advice would you give? Oh, and I think it serves probably to read Jackie's first comment here, actually, if I can find it. Where are you at, Jackie? Golly, so many comments. Y'all are just going crazy in here. It's great. Jackie says, as the parent of 2 bi daughters, I love that the global mobility world would be so accepting and welcoming to them. Wonder about other industries. And then she goes on to say, I think that's good context. She goes on to say, what advice would you give to an LGBTQ young person about to join the workforce? How do you decide how open to be? It's like the $1 million question, isn't it? Mariana, would you care to take this first?
Oh, yeah, I can try. I think we always have to think about context, and I know it's different as we are in the world, right? So that's the first thing. And I think their generation, it's so different now from what it was to me. I was someone who had a hard time coming up to my parents, although they were very nice people, and it was very hard to address the subject in the working environment. But now I see it's so different from the young generation. So just be yourself. Don't take too long to be yourself. You're just going to lose the time in your life.
Yeah. Awesome. Paul, how would you answer this? What advice would you give to Jackie?
Jackie, I think if they have any apprehension, then they can just kind of join without necessarily broadcasting who they are. I would, like I mentioned before, I'm out with the people that I know in my professional life and I work with and stuff, but it wasn't the first day that I said it. But like for my experience here at Bristol was different because I knew somebody who was at Bristol and I asked her, just even like when I first joined, I was like, well, what's the, this is 10 years ago. What's the domestic partnership benefits like? And how do we, I'm just getting ready for this like fight, like, what do we got to do to get benefits and to make sure we get recognized and all this stuff? And they're like, oh, it's already done. It's like, it's over. It's like, everything's okay. And I was like, oh, and so I was like, there's no battle. So it was kind of a nice feeling. And I think that a lot of companies have come so far in that aspect that I don't feel there is as much fear or, retribution that could happen to someone if they were to come out early in their career. So,
Jason, would you mind answering this for Jackie as well and your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Based on yesterday's conversation, my takeaway from that was kind of, you have to kind of do what's comfortable to you, and pick up the signs on what you're seeing as far as the organization that you're interested in going to work for. Like, what are they doing when it comes to DE&I? What do their policies say, regarding same-sex benefits, or just read all the cues. And if you're not getting a good inclusive gut feeling from that organization, then by all means, keep it under wraps and come out when you feel comfortable to do so. I mean, my former employer I started to work for in 1997, I did not feel comfortable even in talking about my husband until 2010 when our son came around. And, you know, we did have different policies and anti-discrimination and things like that as far as policies, but I just didn't feel safe, or there weren't things that made me feel 100% comfortable in that environment talking about, you know, my personal life. So yeah, it's a personal choice, and they have to do what makes them feel comfortable. But do try to read the signs on, you know, what organization supports when it comes to LGBTQ, what different policies they have, because that's going to basically tell you a good deal of what their ideology is about it.
Yeah, and Jackie really appreciates the advice, and I'm going to kind of ask you along feeling safe. I mean, I think that this is one of my big takeaways this week is how do I and others be good allies, and how do we signal that it's safe, and how do we create that environment, you know, and what do we do to be like maybe overt, you know, and the support. And I don't know if I'm asking the question right, so somebody help me out here, but I mean, what do we do?
You know, I don't know if I have. Oh, go ahead, Mariana. Sorry.
No, yeah. I would like to answer to this question the same way your son or your son's friend answered, Paul, because, you know, we think about gay parenting or 2 dads and 2 moms, and there are a lot of other family dynamics going on in the world. And if you look to your own family dynamic, you see that there are a lot of differences and a lot of characteristics that you don't share with others. So just take people as different individuals that you have to respect. And so I don't like the labels too much, in the sense that, again, you have one mother and you don't have a daddy, and you want 2 daddies, and that's so different. So just take people as individuals. I think that would be a good way to start.
So considering all family structures. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
and just being open to it. Actually, Mariana, you did a great job answering the question, because I don't think you have to really come at it from any angle to show that you're supportive, and say that, yeah, you know, I'm an ally and stuff. I think it's just being open to, you know, asking questions about, well, what's your family situation? When you find out, it's like, oh, that's great, that's really nice to hear, you know, or ask somebody to tell their story. You know, like for us, it's you know, we do have different roads we take to parenthood and stuff, and they're not necessarily easy for us, but it is great to tell that story, and then you can get that perspective and things. I'm sure a lot of people on here are you know, kind of, yeah, like Elizabeth, you know, right here, I'm just astonished on what our stories are, because they know me, but they don't know necessarily my whole story as it comes to how I became a parent. So yeah,
awesome. This is great. I remember hanging out with you at Redhead Piano Bar and talking and really, you know, having a really nice talk here. People are really enjoying the advice here. We've got a couple of questions as well. Keep those questions coming. Farrell Elliott says, I was adopted at birth. Hearing your stories makes me appreciate even more how much my parents wanted a child, and have gotten an even bigger appreciation for how hard you all work to become parents and give a wonderful life to your children. That's awesome, Farrell. Thank you so much for that. Hit that like button as well. Leave any comments, questions you have. I'd love your questions. We'll get to all of them. Deborah Mills has a question. Have you had to deal with educating people that interact with your kids, friends, teachers, neighbors, etc., on the fact that having 2 dads or 2 moms is okay? How do you equip your kids for uneducated views? Who wants it?
I'll start off.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, it's very interesting the way some people, strangers primarily, will approach you and ask very personal questions that I don't think that they would ask straight couples in the same situation, whether it be something to the effect of, are they yours? Meaning, yes, you know, what they're getting at is, are they mine genetically, instead of, you know, just they're mine, period. Like, what difference does it make? So yeah, it's interesting how people will be so brazen to get answers to personal questions like that. In response to this as well, educating people. Our children have been what they call Zoomers all year long. So they've been virtual, and half the school has been in session. And one day my son was in the other room, and I heard him on his lesson with the teacher, and every example she was giving was, what would you do if your mom asked you to do this? What would you do if your mom did this? And every single one, she used the word mom. And by like the sixth time, it started to get on my nerves just a little bit. So I immediately sent an email to the principal, who is a lesbian and a same-sex couple. And I said, you know, just an FYI, she might want to learn a little bit about the background of who her audience is, and constantly giving examples of your mother is not good for someone who has two dads. Now, I'm not saying that that hurt his feelings or he showed that it hurt his feelings, but to me, it was showing the wrong signal that he wasn't being included in the conversation, because she was generalizing that everybody has a mom and a dad. And that's not the world that we live in.
Wow. Great example. I think, I've probably been guilty of that, right? I think, Mariana, did you have something to say along that?
Yeah, I just want to comment on something that just happened to me, and I saw how people really need to learn about that. So I'm very close to my family. They know about everything. They love my wife, my dad, my mom. And last month we had Mother's Day in Brazil, right? And then my dad called my wife to congratulate her for the Mother's Day, but he didn't congratulate me. And I was so, I was expecting anyone in the world to say something wrong, but not my dad. And then I asked him, so how come? Because he's really close to his grandchildren. And I told him, how come you believe you are the grandfather if I'm not the mother? So, but he couldn't gather the information, and I know he was not doing it out of bad intention. So, I think it's a long way to educate people, and even to educate ourselves on the things that might happen to us. I was really not expecting that.
Wow. Well, you know what? Sharon says, happy belated Mother's Day, Mariana. I echo that. Happy Mother's Day, and happy upcoming Father's Day to all the dads on the call and out there. This is a good segue. I was told Jason has an amazing top 5. Paul's got a great top 5 as well. I was said, no matter what happens on this call, we're doing these top 5s. And I just think this is an amazing segue into Jason's top 5. We're going to start with you, Jason. Stacy, we got that queued up. Jason, what's your top 5 today? Topic.
So the top 5 today is the top 5 questions you should not ask same-sex parents.
I love it. This is great. I think this is what we all came for. Okay. Number 5.
Numero 5. Who is the mom and who is the dad? Very disrespectful thing to ask a same-sex couple. We are both the dad. We both have equal responsibilities in raising our children, as I'm sure Mariana does with her wife, and Paul does with his husband. People have got to get out of the mindset of stereotypes in that, only a woman can be the stay-at-home parent and put together bag lunches and get kids to the bus, and the other, the dad is the one who is the breadwinner and goes out to work every day at the office. So please don't ask us who is the mom and who is the dad. We are the parents, period.
I am embarrassed for the straights everywhere. Okay. All right. Number 4.
Number 4, where did you get him or her, or did you use a donor? Back to my earlier comments of inappropriate questions. It's an extremely personal story of the adoption process, or the foster process, or the surrogate process, or the in vitro process. So to ask someone, where did you get them, makes it sound like there was an exchange of money. We went to the black market or something like that. And please don't ask us that, because it just is bad. And then, did you use a donor? It's really no one's business how a child was conceived and placed with that family, whether they're biological or not. So unless that information is offered up to you, you don't have a right to ask.
You know, that makes me think you would never ask a straight couple, where did you conceive your child? You would never think of that, would you? Okie dokie. No. This is great. Number 3.
Number 3, aren't you worried that the child would grow up gay? This question stems from the stereotype that 2 gay parents are going to somehow train or embed gayness into a child. There is no scientific evidence whatsoever that having gay parents is going to make a child gay. As we all know, or you should know, that gay is something that you're born with. You either are or you are not. Just like I was born right-handed, I cannot write with my left hand, even if I wanted to. It's just not a choice that I made in my life. It was just something that I am. So please don't ask us if we're worried, because we absolutely guarantee that we are not. You know, you should be worried that my child will be better dressed than yours or have a better hairstyle than yours. But don't be worried that they're going to turn out gay.
Oh my goodness gracious. This is good. This is good. We got some comments coming in here. Vinny, amen. Jason, people are really, people are feeling it there. Let's see here. Just say parent. This is great. Jody Harris, love pushing back on gender stereotypes when you talk about the stay-at-home mom stereotype and things like that. So this is good. Is it wrong that I'm enjoying this? Okay. Number 2.
Number 2, isn't it confusing that she has 2 moms or dads? No, it absolutely is not. I have a video of my son when he was about 18 months old, sitting in his high chair eating macaroni. And I asked him, where's daddy? And he pointed to my husband and said, there he is. And then he looked at me and said, other one right there. So children know absolutely who, and we're both called dad or daddy. I'm Daddy Jason and I'm Daddy Steve. And when they need to differentiate, they know exactly how to address us. So there's no confusion from our perspective whatsoever. So, no.
This is great. Jody's saying, I have no doubt your kids are dressed better than mine. Farrell says the world needs more better dressed children. Mine need help. Maybe that could be another loving. We can do a clinic. Maybe that's, let's see. We'll do a special Pride Week Saturday and we'll just teach us how to dress. Let's see. Michael Bailey. Thanks for sharing the stories and knowledge. Number 1.
And then number 1, who or where are the real parents? Again, my husband and I are the real parents. You know, we've had them since 2 days old. We've changed every diaper. We've wiped every sniffle. We put them to bed every night. So we are their parents. We're both on the birth certificate. What this question usually alludes to is, where are the birth parents, or where are the genetic parents? And again, it's a very personal question. I can speak for my own life. I don't think I necessarily have to answer a question that pertains to other people's lives and tell their story. But again, if someone is willing to share this information with you willingly, that's one thing. But please don't try to probe into someone's life, and certainly don't use the term real parents as if to illegitimize my rank as a parent and a dad.
Wow. That's powerful. Powerful. And I'm sorry that last one really kind of stuck with me. Mariana, did you have a favorite one of those? Did any of those stick out to you at all?
Wow, to me it would be who is the father and who is the mother in the relationship, or who will be using. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah. Paul, have you encountered any of those before?
Yeah, we all experience it to some degree and stuff. I think I just want to add on to Jason's thing about the kids finding their way and stuff. We never were really specific on naming, us like being one dad and one daddy or anything like that. We let Christopher just come up with his own. And so my partner's a big guy, and so he was big daddy and I was other daddy.
Got it. That's great. So I got so many questions. We got so many comments coming in here. I don't know what to. I'm all over the place. Christina says, amen. So painful to talk about the process. You never ask a straight couple. Let's see here. Farrell says, Jason, I didn't meet my birth mother until I was 28 and solidified that my adopted family is my family. Is there ever a concern, and this, I know that we have different relationships with the birth parents, and maybe this is just watching too much television, but is there ever a concern about when they get older that they want to reconnect or have a different type of relationship or anything like that? Yeah, Paul, I'm working on my audio here, but Paul,
yeah, no, so this has actually been something I've been trying to understand better and be prepared for with my son, because I suspect that he will. A couple of my really, really good friends who have been adopted all have this desire to reconnect with their birth parents, and have always felt like there was not like I don't know if it was an absence or a void or something missing in their life that they wanted to reconnect. And several of them have went through the process very excited and happy about the opportunity, and unfortunately I think some of them have been let down from when they do meet that person. They feel that emptiness or that void would be filled and stuff, but then in some cases they were just like, no, my adopted family is definitely my family and stuff. So I'm just kind of preparing for it because I want to prepare him for it, but I also don't want him to necessarily get hurt in the process either. Those types of situations. So it's unique. I think it's something that we don't experience, because I'm still, obviously with, know my parents and all that stuff, but it's something that I feel is unique to adopted children, and I want to make sure that I can prepare him for it. So.
And I'll just jump in real quick, if you don't mind, Ben. I'm worried for our daughter because while Nathan does get to know who his birth mother and birth father are, Isabella is not as lucky. Her birth mother checked out of the hospital 2-3 days after Isabella was born and never looked back. She has not picked up any of the pictures or letters that we've sent to the agency to date. So we don't know where she is. She did not know who the birth father was. So for me, it is a fear because as she gets older, the questions are starting to come like, do I have a mother? And, of course I have to tell her everybody has a mother that, gave birth to you, but I don't have a large backstory for her. And my fear is that with the 23andMe's and Ancestry.coms, if she is to ever do a genetic testing and then you can see who your DNA relatives are, she's going to be a surprise to the family. And for me, it would be heartbreaking to for them to find out that she is a sibling or, you know, a cousin that they didn't know that they had, and for her to be rejected, you know, in meeting that. And who's to say she even wants to go there and know that, you know, when she's 18 or older. But that is a fear for me, because I just worry about what her future holds when it comes to her wanting to know more about her genetic history.
Wow, how do you say that? Go ahead, Mariana.
Yeah, I believe I can answer that too, being my situation a little very different from the guys. Yes, I fear because my wife and I, we made a choice. If you wish, for instance, when we get the sperma in the US, you get all the information from the donor. Something that you do not get in Brazil, for instance. In Brazil, it is forbidden to have this kind of information. And maybe mostly because of that, my wife and I, we've chosen to get the donor in Brazil. So we have no information. We have some health information and some very, very few information. And that was a choice that I'm not sure my kids will agree in the future. And I have no idea how they will deal with that. But again, parenting is making choices all the time, right? That's the choice for same-sex marriage. Hetero marriage, you have other questions. I'm sure they are just as difficult as ours. So that's what I try to think in life.
Sure. Yeah, no, makes sense. Farrell said, I never had a desire to find my birth parents. My parents always made me feel special and so wanted, but they all said if I ever had the desire, they would support me. My birth mother sought me out. Oh, wow. Wow, Farrell. Thanks for sharing. Jana says, being part of the LGBTQIA plus community did it make the process that you experienced in any way more difficult? Or were there additional requirements or anything? Did you ever feel like you had additional hoops to jump through?
I think our situation, being that we went through foster care, was a little different, because when we first looked into doing this, the lady who ran the foster care program for the greater Dallas Metroplex where we lived at the time said, "Oh, well, you're gay. You're not going to get kids, period." She said, end of subject. I won't make it happen, or I won't make it happen. And so we were like, wow, this is not what we heard. And so we went to back to our friends who had success, and they're like, just ignore her, go to Denton County. And so we did.
But I mean, to think that there's a person, because I'm in Dallas, and my wife and I actually been talking about foster care, fostering a child, potentially even adopting a child in the future. We don't know. And to think that there's like a person who's making that decision in a county or a municipality or whatever, and there's all these children that need families, and they're making this unilateral decision to not give access to those families who are just, I mean, that breaks my heart.
Well, this was 2016. Sorry, Paul. It wasn't until 2016, Ben, that it became unilateral across the United States that same-sex couples could adopt. Up until then, there were states or counties where you couldn't. It was illegal. They didn't allow it. So yeah, it's not that long ago.
Wow. No. Wow. All right, let's see here. Shelly Bishop, hi, Ben. My son and I are watching. Thanks so much for shedding light on this important subject. Hey, Shelly, good to see you. Got to catch up. Wow, this has been such a great topic. We have one more top five. I know we have kind of a hard stop here coming up. And Mariana, if you got to go, I understand. You've been amazing. Paul, you got a top five for us? I do.
So the top 5 things straight people say to gay men or lesbians and shouldn't. Number 5.
Goodness. You guys are putting me in some spots today. All right.
I don't even need to say it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Mariana, do you get the opposite of that? Yeah. Oh gosh.
It's really, really unfortunate, and we laugh at these, but it really does happen. I mean, it really does. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, apologies on behalf of the straights. Number 4.
How can you have children? Well, this whole topic is, what we're talking about today is adoption is how we do it. But of course, everyone thinks, well, how can you do it? You don't have a woman involved. So, and you can do surrogacy too. That's not impossible either. So,
Man, you're playing all the hits today, Paul. All right, number 3.
I know. So is this a phase? I was asked this, I came out when I was 19, 20 years old, and obviously right out of high school and college. And I was asked by a friend of mine from high school, is this a phase? And I said, yes, because I really, really want to be picked on. I just, it was kind of like a real crazy question. So.
You know what I need in my life? More hardship.
Exactly.
More people messing with me for no reason. Jackie, my mom asked me that about my daughter and her partner. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I think it's people, like that generation, my parents' generation, who are hopeful that it would change. But, if we go through what we do, coming out is really difficult. I mean, and everyone's personal journey is hard. So if you go through it, I don't think you're going to go back.
Wow.
So number 3.
Number 2.
How does this all work? And you just want to go, what? Because I get it. You really don't understand this, but how does this all work?
Does what usually end the conversation, or does it get a lot more awkward after that?
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's usually how I want to answer it. I'm like, I usually just want to answer what? And then they'll say, well, your relationship. And it's like, again, where do you want to go with this?
Jody Harris says, my dad asked me that about my son. Jody's going to be on Friday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Her son came out, and she's going to talk about that as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Number 1.
This is my favorite. So, no chicks, dudes at all? Nope. Depending on your orientation. So you can obviously understand which perspective this came from. And just in my friends' defense, my high school and childhood friends, I grew up in a very rural part of America. So I'm from a town of 75 people. So you can imagine why questions.
You said 75 people?
Yeah. Yeah. My graduating class was 27.
So half the school was in high school? Half the town was in high school? I don't understand.
Well, no. We actually lived 15.
How that all works? How does that all work?
We moved, or we were 20 miles away from our high school. So.
Oh, okay. I got it.
So.
This is, all kidding aside, my heart really goes out to you, especially being in those moments, especially when we're younger. It's sorry, man. Sorry.
Thanks,
Sharon says, Sharon, at the end of the day, love is love. Thanks for sharing the stories. People are really, the comments have just been on fire. I wish I could have read all the comments today because there's so many supporting ones. Thanks for sharing, educated. Shouts to Paul there. Jana, thanks for sharing beautiful stories full of love. I'm so emotional. Farrell's asking for forgiveness as well. Please forgive us, straight people. I will never ask any of those questions. Yeah, seriously, on behalf of straight people, it makes me kind of embarrassed, honestly. I don't know. Sorry, but hopefully these conversations can open people's eyes and give people tools to have conversations in the future and kind of model what healthy relationships look like with people, right? So that's kind of the point of the show and what we're going for. So anyway, thank you both, Jason and Paul, for being, and Mariana, for being so open with your stories and being so willing to share these personal aspects. I want to give you both maybe just a moment to share anything that maybe you think we should be thinking about, a final thought or final idea that we should be thinking about. Jason,
go
ahead.
Yeah, there's no need to apologize. I'll just end with, it gets better. It actually gets way better. So, don't feel too sad for us, because at the end of the day, we have a great life and we're thriving. So all is good.
Awesome. Love that. Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, I think I just want to kind of circle back to what Sharon had said. Love is love. You know, when the question is how does this all work? It starts with love, and that's what it is. It's parenting is love. You know, everything is all about, you know, the best thing for the children, for our relationship, for our life, you know. So love is love.
Awesome. That's a great way to end Love and Relo today. Love is love, y'all. Keep that in mind. Thank you so much, Jason, Paul, Mariana. I loved having you here. I love the love that you have for your kids. It's inspiring as a parent myself. Just want to give y'all a big hug. Can't wait till we're together again for all the hugs and high fives and cocktails. Anyway, hope y'all enjoyed the show today. Please give our guests a virtual round of applause there and send out that heart there to Jason, Paul, and Mariana. Tune in for the rest of the week, this Pride Week. We're going to be having great conversations with great people. Remember, love is love. Take care, everybody.